interact with designers, with outside artists, with outside companies, basically anyone doing anything visual for books. I sort of, I think I see my role as being ultimately responsible for what goes out the door. Yeah, design is hard, but you try not to own it. You still have to maintain a passion for design or else you'll stop growing. And you do have to continue learning. And you have to press and you have to try things, and you try new things and people say, "What are you smoking? I can't believe this. This looks." I did this one cover for a health book and I had these little tiny people like climbing on apples. And they're tiny, and my boss, I think she asked me if I was on crack. I said, "No, I'm not on crack. I like it." And then right after that, McDonald's came out with a campaign with small people. Volkswagen came out with a campaign with small people. And also The Atlantic had did it on a cover. And so I felt a little bit justified, but by then it was too late. I was already on crack, apparently. But you do have to push, or else, everyone gets very used to seeing things. Next thing you know, you're still designing for the 90s. Or whenever they stop growing, that's their comfort zone. And there are a lot of different people to please. You have sales, you have marketing, you have the editorial team, of course, you have the authors, you have Random House, who sells our books, markets the books, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, the clubs, places like BJ's and Costco. So you really have a lot of bosses and a lot of people who have quite a bit to say about how the book looks, what type of book it is. Sometimes we start and we're not sure until the project's gone for a little while, and then we say, "Oh, maybe the book should be this kind of book." And so there's a lot of start and stop and redo and undo and go back and forth. And we had one cover that's a 6x9 reader. It's a great book. It's a woman named Sasha Martin, has this little kitchen in Tulsa, and she had a rough childhood. And what brought her out and sort of made her whole again was learning how to cook, learning how to make things. And she cooked her whole life, but then what she did is she kind of transformed what the actual meal is. She made it really something special, and then cooked foods from all around the world. And the book is titled Life from Scratch. And it's a great book. It's a great read. Sasha's an amazing person. And in the process of making this book, we had probably 3 or 4 different titles and did over 300 designs for the cover. All very different, anything from a cooking glove. We ended up with rolling pins with a dark blue background. And it was probably the 30th or 40th cover that we actually did. We did hundreds and hundreds. One of the titles was cooking something or other. I don't know. There were so many titles, so many things. And so part of what I do is following things through and trying to manage the frustrations that come with that. It's pretty difficult because I work for magazines. You might do things 2 or 3 times and you're done. I did kids magazine for 13 years before I came up here. Then did children's publishing, children's books. And when you get into books, you realize, oh gosh, you're doing a lot more undoing and redoing. But the children's brand is easy because you know who the market is. It doesn't change. Kids evolve and all that, but the market is the market. So you end up really knowing them so well that you're able to give them exactly what they want. On the magazine, we tested that audience for 13 years. Every time we tried something new, we would give them a survey at the end of it. And we had 500 kids. I think now they have 5,000. Just kids everywhere. It's all online now. But we used to sort through letters. And the kids who wrote the most interesting letters, we would choose to be on an advisory panel. And they read everything. And they would come back and they would say things like, I'll never forget this one girl sent a letter and it said, I would take that image of the tiger, move it down to the bottom, take your type, flush it to the right, bring it up top, move your bullet list over. It's like a whole list of what she would have done differently for the design. And I would have actually gone through with what she suggested and sent it to her, but I didn't really have the time. But I love the fact that she did it. And so, but we had all these kids tell us this is exactly what we, we like. It's exactly what we don't like. It turns out that kids like animals. They don't like reading about kids. They have all these likes and dislikes. You could tell them a story about the most fascinating kid in the world, and they don't care, unless it's them. So we did a lot of things that were like lists and things, and we started this thing called Weird But True. And now we have these books, this Weird But True series, and essentially it's just little facts. Like, so I started this thing with the magazine. I probably worked on the first book, and it's just weird facts and terrible illustrations, and a lot of, like, the fish. Some fish can walk on land. Not a really good illustration, but it's fun. Eyeballs, gum, very bold, lots of pictures, funny animals, but all the facts are, a man once rode a bike down the Eiffel Tower's 1,655 steps.
Wow.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The smallest monkey's the size of a toothbrush.
Yeah.
Insects. So we really learned a lot about kids. They love this still. It's still the highest rated department in the magazine. But facts, so it's pretty easy to please the kids once you know what they like. So, okay, great. Then I come to adult books for adults. And I've been here for 4 years. And there's a lot of guesswork about who buys. And I always think we should try to narrow it a little bit more the same way the kids team is narrowed, because there it's just like, make a great product and they'll buy it. Just come up with fresh ideas, but the audience and what they want. And so that whole part of the equation doesn't exist. You figured it out. So you can always have that and then just think fresh. On the adult side, we're saying, well, who's going to read this book? People who are into health, people who want to feel good. Okay, so what else did they buy? What other books did they buy? And we'll go through all of this, and you'll see these things behind me here. These are called Cover Creative tabloids, and these things are basically, here are some of the comps in the category. This is what else is out in the marketplace. This is what people are buying. And then here are some of the things that we've done in our series. And some will be from other companies. You got DK, and we've got this food book. Now these are the ones that we've actually tried. Mm-hmm. Here's some competition. We said, okay, here's a comp for this book, United States of Food. Here's the final cover. But we took that to Random House. I said, no, I don't like it. We want something different. So now we have a very beautiful multi-image cover, which I don't have on my wall. But
kind of like that top one over there.
What's that?
Kind of like this top one that has a bunch of pictures.
Oh yeah, well, a little bit. It's a little bit more like this one, where you have all these sort of connecting pictures, but it's got a band across the middle, and it's got the title and the subtitle right there, very bright red. And so we do our research here. We figure out what people are buying, and then we take it to Random House, and sometimes they say, no, that's not what they want. But then there are things like this, travel cover, and we pretty much know here's what everyone's buying. So advice for a younger self, how long ago would that be? Gosh, I was in my early 20s when I started here. And we used to wear bright white shirts and ties and khakis. And I was also probably, good grief, about 80 pounds thinner. Work is something that you can really dive into. And you do get better as you go. I think you get a little bit wiser. One of the things I've had a terrible time with, not terrible, one of the things that's been my biggest challenge is knowing when I need to, what did I say before? Know my limitations. I think that's it. I really feel like you have to know when it's time to ask for help. I think you have to know when it's time to just let something go. A lot of times things here aren't let go, and we say, oh, gosh, don't you think they really ought to just let this one go? It's time. We've got to press on. You've got this model of a business. You're trying to do things as fast as you can. You're trying to do them really well. but you have timing issues. What can you get done? And you have a lot of faith in yourself, which I think is necessary. But you also have to know, I can't do this now. I can't take on all this photoshopping. I'm going to need to hire somebody to do that, and I'm going to have to press for someone to pay for that. I can do it, but should I? My limitations a lot of time have to do with physical limitations. You can work 70-hour weeks if you're doing all these extra things. And after a while, you just get tired. And so I find myself in that zone a lot, where I'm just putting in more and more time and more and more time. I said to my wife the other day, I said, I'm really working hard. I said, I'm just drained on the weekends, I have 4 beautiful kids. They all want to play, and I'm dragging, trying, too many late nights. And so I said, I really, want to do this. She goes, well, no matter what happens, she goes, you're always going to work hard. I said, I know, but it's hard work and then smart work. But now, so there are 2 things when it comes to taste. You can have good taste in that you can create something that people want to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will you be creating something artistic? Maybe not. You might be creating something very marketable. And there's a big difference. If you look at all the bestsellers, look at all the books, some of them are terrible, some of them are fantastic. A book like Eat, Pray, Love, that went through multiple revisions. And it turned, I can't remember who hated it. It was the publisher or somebody hated the final cover. And it didn't matter. It sold like crazy. So, everybody thinks their taste is impeccable. Everybody thinks they know good thing when they see it. And yet, right away, they're probably not right. Nobody can be right. It's like everybody thinks they have a good sense of humor. And that can't be the case. So it's the same with taste. It's very subjective, of course. I just tried to say that, but it is true. And that's why when you get into a meeting, you really hope that personal taste doesn't come into it. You hope that it's all market-driven taste. And so, you can be the type of designer that can create something sellable right away. It depends on your market. If you work for Rizzoli or one of these ultra-fine publishers that don't really care about humongous sales, but they want very artistic, you could create absolute art, beautiful. And people here would say, I can't read it. It doesn't matter. It's art. They're going to buy it because that looks so good on the coffee table. If they can't read every letter in that type, they don't care. They want art. And that's the difference. Taschen, beautiful books, gorgeous, expensive. You know what? The more expensive they are, the better they do. And it's all about, we care about mass markets. We care about more people wanting to buy our things, so we have to be clear, and we have to give them titles that they understand. We have to give them typography that they can read. But if you look at the most beautiful books out there, sometimes they're almost impossible to read, or they're just very hidden, or we would put them up on the wall and people sit 20 feet away and they say, I can't read it. And you're like, well, you are 20 feet away.